I'm Nick Kassoff, and welcome to another candidate interview with the Ferguson Observer. I'm here with Stephen Garrett, who is a candidate for Ferguson City Council Ward 1. Thanks for being with us, Stephen.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So, kicking it off with an easy one. Tell us, how did you come to be a Ferguson resident, and why have you stayed here?
Yeah, so I was born here. My mother grew up in Hazelwood, and my father was born in Anthony, Kansas, and they met when they were in college, and then they moved to Ferguson, and they bought a house off of Elizabeth, and that's where I was born. And then they moved off of Hudson, and when I was in elementary school, and I went off to university in Kansas and then came back here in 2014. And I moved into my first house, which was my aunt's house on Elizabeth. And then I bought this house that I'm in now in 2017. And so I just have always been here, and this has been my hometown. This is the only place that I've known and cared for and loved. Like this is where I was born, and this is where I'm going to be forever.
So, not one of those Jayhawks guys, then.
Oh no, I'm definitely a Jayhawk.
I had one of those up the street from me. You people are weird.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
always
it's
causing up trouble.
Kansas. It's Kansas. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's okay. All right. Well, you've been here a long time. This should be an easy question for you to answer. Then, what are your three favorite things about Ferguson?
I feel, I love hearing the bells from the St. John James building of BTC. So that's been a childhood nostalgic sound, and I hear them every time we're outside, and the trees allow it and the wind allows it, and that's one of my top tier moments is whenever I can catch that at the top of the hour. And then just being outside and walking, I try to walk the city as much as I can, and have always done that, whether I was walking to a buddy's house, walking to school, or just now I walk for fun. and and then just all of the people, it's as I've tried to bring more of my friends to move here to the city. It's an amazing experience for me to walk around and go into restaurants, or even to the Aldi or Schnucks, and know people and introduce them, and we can talk about our past, or what we're doing now, or complaining about whatever, and that's just something that I would never have anywhere else without the longevity of being here.
Yeah, it's amazing. I had a meeting. I live up in Jeske Park, and I had a meeting down at the at Montrese, the cigar bar, a few days ago, and it takes me. I walk there, as I usually walk almost everywhere unless I bicycle there, and it always takes twice as long in Ferguson because you can't get more than a few blocks without bumping into somebody you know, which is great unless you're supposed to be there in 15 minutes. So, that's, yeah. Um, and on the flip side of that, what are your three least favorite things about Ferguson?
Ooh, that's I definitely don't like how people that love the area, or people that live here, definitely uh, find every opportunity to talk down on it sometimes. And I understand it, as to where there's frustrations, and you know how awesome this town can be, and you know how great your life can be, and then when something's a little bit out of place, or something's not aligning to how you think it should be, people are very vocal about that, and I think that's
In a non constructive way.
correct. And it's almost to the point where it wears down on you, and you're like, oh, that's it. Yeah, you hate to see it, but people shouldn't feel that way. They shouldn't be having these problems. So it's a very big motivator, and I think it's not totally correct to say it's like my least favorite thing, but I think it's my least favorite thing to know that these things are happening and people are going through these experiences in a place that I love so much. It's like, they shouldn't have to say these things. They shouldn't have to be vocal about it into the social media ether. They should have opportunities to talk to someone and get it solved. That's the part that I don't like, is that people are feeling that they have no other outlet than to just project it in.
The sense of frustration that some people
Yeah.
feel, and hopefully people of this community can work together and abate the problems and reduce the frustration. So that's certainly a goal that all of us have. Looking now away from the community in general and at the city government, what do you think our city government right now is doing best?
What we're doing best is really looking at ourselves and our infrastructure and our finances, and making sure that when we're spending money, that it's something that we need to be spending it on. We're very particular about how we're investing, and what the ramifications are of investing, and what the perceived benefits are. I think we are very, very careful, and that takes discipline, and it's not an easy thing to do. It's not easy to make the budget that we have work on an annual basis, especially with the amount of surprises we run into. And you really have to give it to the people that have worked really, really hard to stretch our budget out and to make some really great things happen, and to keep the town moving forward through a lot of the hurdles that they've had. And I think while we're going to face a lot of benefits from that, we're going to have more opportunities because we were so disciplined for so long.
Well, and I'm a budget hawk, and I hope that we maintain that posture even when things aren't tight, because somebody worked for that money, and the city took it away from them in taxes, and I think we owe a duty to the taxpayer to use that money wisely. Um, Again, looking at city government right now, not a few years ago or in the future, but today, what would you say is our city government's greatest failure?
We need to get new building codes and ordinances online now. We need to be able to make sure our buildings are up to snuff, to make sure that the businesses are operating to the best of their ability, and to make sure that our city is knowledgeable on the guidelines. So when a company comes in, or someone wants to build a house, or any of those kind of documentations are going to be gone over, that we have up-to-date building codes and we have up-to-date ordinances for us to leverage, and to help people building, or people doing improvements to the area, that they're doing it in a safe manner, and that they're doing it to a code that's aligned with the 2021, and not pre. I believe some of our ordinances are outdated to about 2008.
But we're working with houses that might be 100 years old.
Correct, and those are taken into account when we have updated ordinances and code. I think when we look at just like the cost of what it is to do a monument sign versus a pole sign, the expectation that a business is able to do that doesn't really align to what is important for expenditures. You look at the price of lumber right now; it's so much higher, and the expectations have to be different, and it has to align with the codes. And we have to be able to have code enforcement go out and take care of the dilapidated buildings, and get the people to fix it.
Yeah,
We can't keep having these buildings fall in onto themselves.
yeah, that's a tremendous problem, and it's one that I've been actively involved in as well. So certainly enforcement has to be a priority, uh, and so we'll see what can be done about that. Last question I've got: what would you say the city of Ferguson needs to do in the next year to succeed? And why are you the best person to be the Ward 1 city councilman and make that happen?
Yeah, if I had to drill it down to one thing, that we really need more officers on our force. that's appropriate for our city. And I think that we need to be leveraging alternative solutions to get the proper candidates onto the police force, and to where that they are able to respond appropriately to all of the needs that we have as citizens. And I'm hoping that we can look into opportunities like pulling in graduate social workers and showing them the value of going through the police academy and being a qualified and invested officer on the force, so we can get to that number, and we can hit what we need to hit with the consent decree and get that in the past, as to where that we can have a safe and operational city.
Fantastic. Well, I certainly think there's very few people living here that wouldn't like to see people driving a little slower and maybe not have so many people rummaging through cars and that sort of thing. So there's definitely a need for it.
Yeah, and speaking of like the speeding, like that doesn't necessarily have to be like a ticket kind of solve. Looking at the 2040 plan and some of the infrastructure recommendations that come through, uh, even doing like modifications to the roads to where it's more appropriate for walking and we don't have these straight shots highway to highway, those kind of changes that we can use grants and county and leverage their influence to change roads like Chambers and Ferguson Avenue and Elizabeth, to where it's not so attractive to fly through those areas because you're just dipping from highway to highway. I believe Chief Armstrong just mentioned that like there is a study done on Chambers, and there's just like a natural speed that people are going to go because that's what they are comfortable going. And when you take that comfortability away with something like dead end roads or roundabouts or different signage and bridges or divided roads, like those are the kinds of things that we can do without like just having a very stringent police force that's ticketing citizens, and also creating other benefits like a lot of walkable options for um, our people to reach different parts of the city.
Yeah, I think road design is really important, and if you go to other countries, they design the roads for the speed that they want people to go, and so the speed limits are naturally self-enforcing. And in the United States, we design roads for double the speed that we want people to go, and then put signs up and are surprised when that doesn't do any good. So uh, hopefully we can get some people in City Hall with a vision and with the knowledge to do that. That would be fantastic. Um, so uh, that's all the questions I have. Uh, what else would you like to say to the person who may not be able to see you on their doorstep because of COVID? They've never met you and they want to know why you're the right guy to be their city council member for the next 3 years.
Absolutely. I would tell them that this pandemic and a lot of the things that we've gone through in the past highlights where we as a city need to be more open in our communication and have more options for people to reach me as a council person or the mayor or the city manager or heads of park and recs. We need to really look at how communication is done, how we're notifying citizens of change, how we're notifying of things like committees or steering committees and all of those programs. Ferguson does a lot, and I think it's not accurately communicated going out, especially as we've come into this where we can't go door to door. We don't have the bumping into one another at the grocery store to kind of catch up on what's going on, especially as a lot of the staff and government officials aren't out in the community like they could be in different times. And I'm the guy that can help with those kind of infrastructure builds of databases and of websites and of communication strategy, and really finding alternative ways for the city to engage the citizens, and making sure that we have a two-way street of communication through social media, through email, through databases, through records of conversations. A lot of the oral history is being lost, just because there's no records of it. And so the steps that I want to take, and the path that I'm going down, is to make it so other people like me that are new and young, can come in with a lot more experience from the past to make the right decisions, and to really help the citizens in this city.
Would be fantastic. Well, we've been speaking with Stephen Garrett, who is a candidate for Ward 1, Ferguson City Council. We will be having a candidate forum toward the end of March. I hope you'll be able to participate. And thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much.